All right, everybody, welcome back. We've got some more free agent quarterbacks to go through here, and now we're kind of in the realm of just the backups. These are guys who can play, they are competent, they can hold the fort down, they can do the things that a quarterback technically needs to do, but there isn't a ton else to really say about them. They're not going to be the guy who wins games. They may not even really be the guy who can help you win games. They might just be a guy who you goes out there and you hope, okay, just hand the ball off and hopefully you don't have to actually do anything too excessive here. Hopefully we don't need you to actually go make a bunch of plays to win this game. We just need a backup, and we don't have a lot of money to spend, or we don't want to spend a lot of money on it. So we're gonna get one of these guys. We're gonna get one of these. These are just normal backups at this point. So to me, the guys in this free agency class that meet that criteria would be Mitchell Trubisky, recently let go by the Steelers, and not a very good run for him in Pittsburgh. It wasn't awful, I guess, but he's also just about to turn 30, and athleticism is a part of his game. Yeah, he's going to turn 30 before the season starts. Athleticism is a part of his game. When he was in Chicago having some years that were, quote unquote good, and by good I mean just kind of decent, athleticism was a part of it. He was actually a very good runner. That's going to start to leave him as he gets older and older. He's been outplayed by some not very good quarterbacks in each of the last 2 years in Pittsburgh. He's gotten opportunities both years and just didn't perform well enough to keep the job. So at this point, I don't think Trubisky's going to get anything more than like 1 year, $3 million. He got more than that with Pittsburgh over these last couple years, but I think at this point he's just going to settle into that 1 year, $3 million, take it or leave it type of territory. Maybe even like 2.5. PFF, by the way, hated him, and it's hard to get PFF to hate you if you're a quarterback. Like, quarterbacks get a lot of leeway on PFF in my experience. They did like him in 2022 for whatever it's worth, so maybe there's a little something there. And, he's had good years before, but I think it's just been kind of a slow decline to the point now where we're looking at Trubisky and going, this is just a pure backup. He's not even really a bridge quarterback, right? Like a couple years ago, maybe he was a bridge quarterback, but I don't think he's a bridge quarterback right now. Okay, so that's the first guy that I would look at as being like a purified backup. Next guy, and this one's going to be a little bit debatable. Some people are going to argue he should have been in the high-end backup slash bridge territory, but I don't think he can be that anymore. It is Tyrod Taylor. T-Mobile. T-Mobile, he's been around for quite some time now. He's going to turn 35 before the season starts. His days of starting in Buffalo are long in the past, but he's been bouncing around since then. Played a little bit in Cleveland, played a little bit in LA, played a little bit in Houston, played a good amount with the Giants last year, actually, and he didn't play terribly. So I can understand some people might look at Tyrod Taylor and say that's a high-end backup, or maybe it's even like a bridge quarterback type. And I can kind of see that, but he's just getting old. He's going to turn 35 before the season starts. It's not like he was working from some tremendous well of physical ability that he can afford to lose a little bit more of it, right? Like his rushing ability, which was what made him a viable starter at one point, has been diminishing for a while now. It's only going to get worse. And to me, even though I do acknowledge the possibility that he might be able to keep it up a little while longer, I just wouldn't want to bring in Tyrod Taylor as a bridge and expect to get... You want something out of your bridge, right? You want him to at least be able to get the ball to the receivers and run the offense competently so those guys can develop even if you're not planning on winning games in the immediate present. You don't want a backup. You don't want a bridge quarterback to just be a guy who is completely inept all the time. You want him to be able to do at least competent stuff. And I don't know if Tyrod's going to continue to be that. He might just be kind of next tier down where he's just a backup. By the way, Spotrac does have a value page for him. They have 2 years, 6.8 million, so that's 3.3, which, I mean, it's a multi-year deal, so it's a little different, but the price range is about right for a player of this level. I could see it going down a little bit just because of age. Maybe he ends up taking like a 1 year, 3 million, like I said. So not a bad option if you're just looking for a purified backup. Another guy in that realm would be Sam Darnold. And I understand that there are going to be people out there who are like, well, he's only 26. He's going to turn 27 before the season. His best years are ahead of him. He's had some okay years, like what he did in Carolina in 2022 was all right. But it's just over, isn't it? Like, there's no way Sam Darnold is ever going to be like a viable starter in this league. He's not even really a bridge quarterback to me anymore. He did a little bit in San Francisco last year and played kind of sort of okay, but like I just it's a bridge too far for me to say that Sam Darnold's suddenly going to turn into this viable top 32 quarterback in this league. So I think he's a pure backup at this point, but he would be a viable one, and you could probably get him for like 1 year, $3 million. He got 4.5 last year from San Fran, didn't play, so I imagine you could get him for like 1 year, $3 million, and he'll just be happy to remain in the league. And you've got a guy with at least some physical ability here. Next guy, this is an interesting one. Tyler Huntley of the Baltimore Ravens. And this was a guy who had to play a decent amount over the last few years because of Lamar injuries. He played a decent amount in 2022 and in 2021, actually. And he didn't really play good. There were definitely big holes in his game, big flaws in his game. But he does provide that second dimension that a lot of quarterbacks don't, where he's very, very frustrating to defend against because he's just incredibly elusive and hard to catch, and he does a lot of damage with his legs. So you might not be getting great results from Tyler Huntley overall, but at the very least, he's going to annoy defenses because of his elusiveness. And we've seen some positive things from him before, like in 2022, he led that 92-yard game-winning drive against the Broncos, and the Broncos had a really good defense that year. And that was something that really saved the Ravens' season, kind of, because they were just playing out the string after Lamar got hurt, and Huntley was able to do just enough to get them into the dance, at least. So Tyler Huntley would be intriguing. He's young, by the way. He just turned 26. PFF obviously not in love with him. This is a 2023. So let's go back to like a more relevant year like 2022. There are clear problems here, but I would kind of rather go with somebody like this than somebody like a Mitchell Trubisky. Like, Trubisky's probably better than Huntley, but realistically, Huntley's going to, at the very least, provide an X factor that a guy like Trubisky won't, or even a Sam Darnold. And I think you could get him for about the same price, 1 year, $3 million. He didn't do anything last year to earn anything more than that, I don't think. Next guy in this tier for me, Mason Rudolph, who actually did play fairly well for the Steelers down the stretch, get them into the playoffs, and they were competitive in their playoff game against the Bills. So Rudolph, I feel like we've seen enough from Rudolph to know he's not a true starter in this league, not even as a bridge. Like, he got to play a decent amount in 2019 when Roethlisberger got hurt, and the results were just kind of like bleh. It was whatever. It was passable. And I don't think a few good games in 2023 are suddenly going to make people think, oh, this is a guy we need to throw $10 million a year at. We need to make this guy a starter. I doubt that's going to happen. Although I will say it was pretty good, right? We saw it. We saw it here in Seattle when Pittsburgh came to Seattle, and Rudolph played a pretty decent game. Now, it's nothing over the top. He is, at the end of the day, a game manager, but he managed the game well. So I guess there could be a little bit going on here, but to me, Rudolph is going to get 1 year, $3 million, same territory as these other guys, and he'll just be a decent backup for you. Just a workable backup. Not too much else to say about it. Just not enough good here. So Rudolph, again, about to turn 29, by the way, so age is not a thing that's going to flush him out of the league at this point. I think he's still got a little bit of time left in this league before we have to think about that. A little bit of pedigree here because he is a former third-round pick, but I don't know. I don't think the big bucks are going to fly his way. I don't think he's going to get handed a starting job or anything like that. So Rudolph, 1 year, $3 million, maybe. And this final guy, you might be able to get for less than anybody else I mentioned in this video, but I still would consider him to be a viable backup. It's Carson Wentz. So Carson Wentz, look, age does not matter with Carson Wentz. He's effectively 58 years old because of all the injuries. Technically, he's 31, but realistically, he may as well be 100. I understand that. I'm not going to really talk about the age part of it. But last year, he played with the Rams and only got like $1 million out of it. What was it? Carson Wentz, $1.3 million. Didn't really play that much. Didn't really do all that much. When he did play a little bit, it was whatever. It was passable. But you'd probably be able to get him for like $1.5 million. You'd be able to really kind of squeeze a little bit of extra juice out of the cap with a guy like Carson Wentz. And you'd be getting a guy who has played competent football in recent memory. Like, he was competent, perfectly fine with the Colts in 2021. 27 touchdowns, 7 picks. It was workable. It wasn't great. I understand that there were some things behind those numbers that weren't so good. But if this guy's your backup, you've done fairly well for yourself. Even in Washington, it wasn't atrocious. This is what he did in Washington in 2022 was probably better than what Trubisky did in Pittsburgh. And you can get that for a little bit cheaper just because at this point he's so beat up, nobody really wants to give him a shot as anything other than camp tryout guy. I'm kind of interested in that because there is some stuff about Carson Wentz that he can still do, some stuff that is still pretty good, still pretty positive. As a pure backup, I think you could do worse. By the way, even in 2023, the little bit that he played, I'm not going to read too much into it, but PFF liked it. They liked some of his recent years a good amount less, but if you're trying to get just a purified backup here, this might be the best option, bang for your buck wise. I might rather do Huntley at 1 year, $3 million than Wentz at 1 year, 1.5. But Wentz at 1.5 would be, I think, a really good investment to make because there's so little to invest. All right, we got one more quarterback video coming a little later today where I'll take a look at the true bottom of the barrel, but those would be my purified backup candidates. Let me know what you think. If anything, I will be seeing you guys later. Go Hawks.